And good morning. It is Monday, October 18th, and we're living in the Magic City. It's beautiful outside. I'm Eric Knowles, the president of the Miami-Dade Chamber, and this is Miami-Dade Chamber's Member Connection. I want to welcome you. But before we get started, here's a message from one of our supporters, our sponsors, a member of the Chamber, Jackson Hospital.
My name is Amber Longhorn, and I am the director.
We lost Amber. So, we're here.
My name is Amber Longhorn, and I am the director of Jackson Health Systems Small Business Enterprise Program. Jackson is proud to partner with the Miami-Dade Chamber of Commerce in bringing you this video series. We hope you'll gain valuable information and tools on doing business in Miami-Dade County, but especially with Jackson Health System. We invite you to visit us online for more information at www.jacksonsmallbusiness.org.
So I'm back, and as I said, it's just beautiful here in sunny South Florida. It's October, the weather's breaking, but just excited to be here as we bring in our guests from Legal Services of Greater Miami, and the great organizations that's been doing great work in our community. This morning we have Monica Vigues-Pitman, and I'm just happy to have her here. Monica. Waiting for Monica to come in. Hopefully we didn't lose Monica. There she is. It's interesting, Monica. We've all been doing these Zooms and various connections. So every now and then there's a little glitch, but we get through it and we keep it moving.
If only this is the biggest problem I have today.
Right? Exactly. Speaking about that, talking about before we even get into legal services of Greater Miami, we've all had to pivot. And so how has it been for you personally in terms of pivoting?
It's been interesting. So I kind of, this maybe says something about myself. I have a hard time separating myself from my work. So when you're asking how it's been for me personally, the first thing that came to my mind was, like many working moms, I was working during the pandemic, but at the beginning, at least, figuring out how to do home or virtual schooling with my kids, and having those challenges, but very lucky and blessed to be in a work situation that allowed me to do that, to be honest, unlike many of the people that we serve. And knock on wood, everything else, family and friends have generally been healthy and been well. So I've been extraordinarily lucky during a very difficult time for our community.
Absolutely. So, I mean, and I'm sure Legal Services of Greater Miami has played a big role in this process as we've gone through the pandemic. As you know, before we came on, I told you I had the honor of working with John Little, who's since retired, but I worked for Coconut Grove Local Development Corporation, and John served as our legal on a lot of issues, and not necessarily issues, but things that we dealt with. We built affordable housing, and he helped us through that process as well. So, what is Legal Services of Greater Miami?
So we are, John is an institution, but so is Legal Services of Greater Miami. But he's amazing. So Legal Service of Greater Miami, we're celebrating our 55th year right now.
Wow.
So we've been in Miami, that's a long time.
Yeah.
We're a relatively young city. We are essentially a nonprofit law firm providing free civil legal assistance for the clients that qualify for our services in a variety of areas. Really, I would say our mission is, obviously our strategy for accomplishing this mission is providing legal representation, but our mission is to remove legal barriers to access to justice, and more specifically, even economic opportunity. So if I could walk you through some of the different areas that we represent clients. I think you'll gain a better understanding of what.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then you talk about economic opportunity. I mean, that's a part of our mission statement. So, we're joined at the hip when it comes to that. So please walk us through the clients that you do serve.
Of course, of course. So even before the pandemic, close to 60% of the clients seeking our assistance were seeking our help with housing issues, which is not a surprise in Miami-Dade. So we have, let me back up, I'm sorry. We are a team of 60, 30 of which are attorneys. So I get asked that question a lot. Do you have full-time employees? Yes, we're an organization of 60 employees, 30 full-time attorneys, 4 departments or units. The first one I want to mention focuses on tenants' rights. Right now, we're seeing a spike in that, obviously, of people coming to us asking for assistance with eviction defense. And so we're doing our best to meet that demand and also connecting them to rental assistance programs. We also have our health and income maintenance unit. Really, that unit helps individuals that have been denied, terminated, or reduced any form of public assistance. So think food stamps, which are now called SNAP, Medicaid, Social Security, disability, a variety of other areas. We also have projects that serve specific populations. So we have a veterans advocacy project. We have a homeless legal advocacy project. And we have one project that serves children in the school system that are in special education. So if a parent feels that their child is not getting the special education services he or she needs to be successful, we will represent the parent in accessing those services. And then we also have our consumer unit. And so often people think that the clients we serve, which are all low income, there's this stereotype that people may not be working. Actually, the vast majority of our clients are employed. And with work income also comes consumer issues because you have access to credit, you may be a homeowner, these sorts of things. So I've been here a while, so I was here during the Great Recession. In that unit, we saw a huge spike in foreclosure defense during the Great Recession, if you recall the housing issues that we had. Out of that, we also help with a variety of issues such as unfair debt collection, used car issues. Often for a family, besides a home, an automobile is often the most valuable asset that most families have. And in Miami-Dade, keeping your automobile is extremely important. Obviously, a family trying to get to work and drop off kids in childcare, that sort of thing. And then our last unit that I want to mention, you are familiar with, which is our Community Economic Development Unit. And so out of that unit, we've been serving nonprofit affordable housing developers for at least 30 years, I think. And in the past about 4 to 5 years, we have expanded the work to also serve financially eligible small businesses as well as nonprofits that are serving our client community.
Wow.
So it's a
big shop.
Yeah, it is. But really, the initial areas that I mentioned where we represent people, it's really about making sure that they have that safety net of home and healthcare and income. And then the community economic development, is almost like the 2.0 version, where it's people that are working their way out of poverty. How can we support them and ensure or promote their success?
Well, that's interesting. Let's talk about that a little bit. Obviously, we are a chamber, and our focus is creating opportunities for economic and social transformation in our community. So, how does legal services? You mentioned small businesses, that you help them, and how does that work?
So often, small businesses will have the need of an attorney for everything from inception, right? Formation and incorporation.
Right.
Sometimes Miami-Dade is a small business economy, but sometimes those businesses aren't even operating as business. They haven't incorporated. They don't have the appropriate structures. So getting advice and counsel and assistance on that process, but also as they move through developing the business, whether it's access to capital and questions during the summer. We had a lot of 2020, a huge growth in clients seeking our assistance, just getting advice on the implications of a PPP loan. Some of the companies that we work with are very small businesses, so they're not used to access, they may not even be banking. So how did we walk them through that process? Obviously, we're not financial experts, so we were working with other organizations and connecting them to our people, but also talking through them the legal implications of certain programs.
Wow. I served on the mayor's task force during COVID, and I know you all were very engaged in that. So, is there a threshold in terms of, okay, I'm a small business, I'm starting a small business. And I know you, from a legal services perspective, you work with families with low income. So, how does that come into play with a business that's starting? Or not even just starting, but looking for your assistance.
Right. So if your question is how do we determine their eligibility?
Yeah, there you
Yeah. So
go.
let's take for individuals first because it'll make the business easier to explain. For individuals, we could serve people more or less up to 200% of the federal poverty level. I'm just literally looking at it. Right. I think for a household of one, it's in the low 20s. And it goes up. It's a very simple thing to look up. I always tell people when in doubt, just reach out to us. There's no harm
Right.
at all. Um, but basically, for small businesses, and again, like many nonprofits, we have a lot of different grants that sometimes allow us to expand eligibility. So
Right.
anything I'm saying now, I would want people to err on the side of contacting and reaching out to us. There is no charge, no harm, and at least we could connect you to a resource. But the majority owner of the business has to be financially eligible for our services. So if two people own a business and one owns the majority of shares in the business, that individual should be financially eligible for our services. But on our small businesses, we have a more expansive view of eligibility.
Right.
So
Yeah. Because again, and I hear you talking about the federal guidelines and
mhm.
200% and so on and so forth, and that's for family with one child. It's 20 something thousand dollars, and I know that can be challenging, and you're talking about starting a business. So as you said, your eligibility somewhat changes when you're looking at a
Correct.
bit.
We have grants that allow us to serve people with more income in our small business, but sometimes it's very specific. So I just think
Right, you can't
it
go into details. You have to look at each one individually.
really, yeah, it does. It does.
Exactly.
That's it.
That's the thing that I talk about all the time, and you'll hear me say it ad nauseum about having the back of your house together, and which is having the correct setup legally for your business. Having a marketing team, having a accountant, so on and so forth. So these things are very important. Um, what are the challenges that you see? Obviously, we talk about the housing market um, beginning to the moratoriums going away.
Mhm.
How do you see, or what has been the challenges that you've been seeing?
They've come in waves. I mean, if we're talking about specifically more or less the pandemic, I think in summer 20, it was the small business PPP, and then for individuals, it was a huge spike, an 1,100% increase in people seeking our assistance for unemployment compensation assistance, because that's one of the areas that we help individuals. And so that was obviously a big need then that we worked to meet the demand. Now we're seeing a lot of people contact us for eviction assistance. And right now it's a variety of different kinds of cases because in some instances, um, landlords are choosing not to renew leases because rent has gone up so much that they could have another tenant occupy the same unit and pay more rent. And so that could be an issue. Or there's obviously a lot of non-payment of rent cases, in which case we're working with the individuals and also trying to connect and expedite rental assistance that the county and the city have. Um, so it's been sort of a flux. It comes in waves. I equate this to we do disaster response after in South Florida it tends to be hurricanes, and often right after the first thing after a hurricane you see people needing assistance with FEMA applications and some public benefits. The next wave is evictions, and down the road it's like homeowner issues with general GCs and the issues that come up. And I think we're seeing obviously it's not the same but similar. My concern is now that there's a mortgage assistance for homeowners, making sure that they have access to that as well, so that we don't see a wave of, or we limit the wave of any increase in foreclosures.
Right. Question for you. some of our members are actually landlords, and they found themselves being challenged from tenants that may not have filled out the application for tenant assistance. And, it was said that the tenant had to fill out the application with Dade County versus the owner of the property. And then I found out later that the owner of the property could. Have you dealt with that at all?
So I personally have not. Our tenants' rights attorneys, I'm sure, have. I'm not familiar with exactly if the landlord can complete it or not. I do know one of the issues was that some landlords may have been hesitant to receive the check from the county or city for a variety of reasons. Now that check could go to the tenant if they indicate the landlord's not accepting it for payment of the back rent. I will say in some instances, I know that it's been a challenge for a lot of landlords, and I would assume smaller landlords in terms of somebody that owns a small building, if they have a mortgage, covering the mortgage during this time was probably a hardship. But luckily, I encourage landlords to work with these rental assistance programs because there's thousands of dollars in rent, and if they evict the tenant, the family's going to be in a worse situation, and if that happens on a mass level for our community, it could be a problem for our community as a whole. But two, the chances of them collecting on that back rent once the individual is evicted obviously decrease significantly.
Right. Well, and again, I'm digging into this because obviously it's challenges that the renters are facing as well as the owner of the property. Are owners of property able to even have that conversation with you to how to figure out how to steer through that?
We don't represent landlords. I
Right.
do know that we have put on different community education presentations virtually,
Right.
where we have provided advice on how landlords, or I should say, we provided information
Right.
sort of in the presentation on how landlords can proceed. But I'm not sure exactly what those steps would be.
Right. So that's good information that you have because again, it's about having the right information so that you can proceed accordingly. What other things that you would like to share with our listening audience, those with our viewers, about Legal Services of Greater Miami before I let you go?
Well, I mean, since your membership are all businesses, what I always tell people is that we could be a great resource for your business or small business. Sometimes people think that, and this is where I started, that our clients are unemployed. I'll talk to somebody who's a new client. They said, I didn't think I'd be eligible for your service because I work. And we said, to the contrary, most of our clients are working. And on that same note, a lot of small businesses and businesses in general in South Florida employ workers. Some of them are low wage, some of them are living wage even, but if you're a single mom with 2 kids making a living wage, you're going to qualify for our services. And so I always encourage businesses actually to reach out if their HR departments want us to do presentations for either their HR departments or their employees, to let them know that we're a service that's available in the community. I think that would be great. I think the same way that we're a resource for the individuals that we serve, I think we could be great partners for some of the companies doing business in South Florida. We put on an annual business breakfast panel where we have business leaders talk about our work. And on the first one, I still remember this, we had the head of HR for the Lowe's on South Beach. And she talked about, replace the hospitality industry just has a natural high rate of turnover. I think she said at that point, 30%. This is 3 years ago or 4 years ago at this point. And the cost to business of that turnover is high. In this labor market, I would think it's even higher because the cost of replacing and the loss of business that people are having. So if you have an employee that's going through an eviction, or if you have an employee that their child is not in the right educational setting and they're constantly getting called out of work to go pick up their child because they're not in, they're according to the school misbehaving, but really they're not in the right setting, if they're on the spectrum or whatever the case may be. If we can intervene and provide assistance to provide some stability to your employee because they need our legal services, it will also provide stability for your business in terms of absenteeism, concentration of employees, and everything else. So I do want other for-profit businesses in South Florida, even if they don't the ones that don't necessarily couldn't be a client of ours, but they could be a partner to make sure that their employees are getting the services they need and that we're working with them. Again, all of our services are free if the client qualifies. And if
Right.
we at least connect them to a resource.
No, that's great information. I never thought about it from that perspective. I mean, that's a very, very pertinent point that you just made because, like you said, we do have a lot of businesses that the employees are working at below the wages that what do we call it again?
A living wage?
Living wage.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so your services are available for them to access. So I know that's great information. So I definitely want to make sure that we get that information out. And I know that you all have been on our Tuesday meetups and provided information. So we want to continue that as well. Because a lot of our businesses are startups. A lot of them do have living wage employees. And so it's great. Great to know that. Well, anything else before we close?
No, just I encourage your members to get on our website, learn more about us, so that we can be a resource when you need us. As the same way that you tell people to have their, what was it, the back operations or the back of the house.
Back of their house.
You never want to look for an attorney when you need one. You want to know who your attorney is before, which I think was the point you were making. So get to know us as an organization by getting on our website, following us on social media. And that way, as opportunities come up for engagement, the businesses that are our members may want to either support us or partner with us, whatever works best for them and their goals.
This has been great. Monica, thank you so much. And for those of you who want to get in touch with Monica, how can they do that? Or legal services?
Well, legal services. Let me say this. I'll get to Rachel. How to become a client. There's 3 ways. For right now, 2 ways of intake. We have phone and online. So online intake, the website is scrolling there on the bottom. You just click on Get Help. We have online intake. And for phone intake, you call us during our intake hours, which are listed on that same website. The phone number is 305-576-0080. We also have walk-in intake, but that is suspended right now. So I encourage people to call in through phone and online, and we'll be able to help you.
Awesome. So if you want to know more information, boy, let me drink some water. I can't talk this morning. If you want to know more and get more information about the chamber, you can go to www.m-dcc.org, or you can call the chamber at 305-751-8648. Monica Vigues-Pitman, thank you so much. This has been a great conversation. Look forward to continue to work with legal services of Greater Miami.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.